Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Temple City Council. My apologies for starting a little bit late. We just had a longer work session than usual. Currently, it is 5:30, and please rise as Mayor Pro Tem Judy Morales leads us in the invocation, which will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance, led by City Secretary Jana Lou Ellen.
Join me, please. Heavenly Father, we come to you today with humble hearts and ask that you fill us with your Holy Spirit. You have said in Chronicles 7:14, my people who call by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. Then I will hear from heaven, will forgive their sin and will heal their land. We ask, Father, for the blessing and protection upon our cities who are reopening businesses and services, blessings for our schools and our churches and all our houses of worship, and for the police, for the fire, for the first responders, the doctors, and all people who work to serve the community. We ask for wisdom for our nation's leaders, our local leaders, our mayor, our city council, city staff, and all those who work together to make our community a place we love to call home. Lord, we pray for unity in our community and in America. Only you can bring unity, harmony, and oneness. We pray for all the people of all races to come together as one, to live in peace and unity together. Lord, you have made each one of us in your image. Help us to stand against all racial and ethnic divisions, denouncing the devil's evilness and sinfulness. On this Independence weekend, Father, we were reminded of all those who have sacrificed for our freedom, following the example of your Son, Jesus Christ. Let us not take freedom for granted. May we always remember the high price that was and is being paid for our freedom. Lord, stimulate our hearts with a sense of patriotism and democracy, and keep our government for the people, by the people, and for the people alive in our great country. Bless those who have served and are serving and continue to give them favor, Father. Watch over their families and keep them safe. Help us to live our lives in a way that glorify you, Lord. Give each one of us the strength to be a blessing to someone's and in someone's life today, and grant us the opportunity to lead others into the freedom that can be found in knowing your Son, Jesus Christ. We ask this in the name of your precious Son, Jesus. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both very much. Now we'll move on to the public comments part of the meeting. Citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may do so. Please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. We ask that you keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and please understand that no discussion or final action will be taken by the council on anything that's spoken about during public comments. We do have a couple of folks who've signed up. Mr. Alan Lytle.
Good evening. My name is Alan Lytle. I live at 504 Paseo del Plata here in Temple. And Mayor and Council, just wanted to bring to your attention something from item number 7, where we're constructing the roads across Friars Creek. In May, they just removed a barn, which apparently had a large amount of hay in it. And unfortunately, it caught fire. Fortunately, the fire department did put it out, and it appears to have been from spontaneous combustion. You know, hay piled up will get hot. Since then, we've had a lot of rain, but we're fixing to lose that, and the hay pile is still there. And I'm afraid if we don't get them or us to flatten out that pile or get rid of it or whatever, we'll end up with another fire awful close to my house. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Zoe Grant.
Good afternoon, evening. Zoe Grant, 712 South 32nd Street. I just want to address a couple of transportation issues. East Temple has 3 eternal roads within the loop that connect to the rest of the city. I pointed out 4 areas: 406 East Adams Avenue. There's a sidewalk that is uneven and in need of repair. Many people that walk, ride their bikes, or have wheelchairs going to HEB are having issues where they have to either get into the street. 206 East Adams Avenue is a steep sidewalk in front of Impact Church. There's a ramp to go down, but there's not one to get up, and it's really steep. So again, people have to go out in the street or across the street. And H Street overpass, there's a steep incline already from the train tracks. It looks like the road has dropped and the ramp is still high. So there's some makeshift ramps that are there that are not ADA compliant. And when the road drops, there's more space between the guardrail and the ground. So I'm afraid that if anyone's on a wheelchair and happens to flip at that point and or a stroller, then that person would flip over and possibly go underneath that railing. And then 24th Street Bridge has 4 lanes and 2 lane connections on both ends. Again, the wheelchairs and the pedestrians crossing, if we can get a paint stripe in that bridge so that people can determine where the pedestrian should be and where the car should be. Nobody's ever using the 4 lanes altogether, but I know that's a Claro Street, I believe. Fire concerns, 1303 East Avenue E. In early October 2020, 9 months ago, a house was burned down and still piled up, which houses snakes and rats to inhabit. While on 802 South 6th Street along 8th Street, the fire had happened within 2 months. It was cleared. I have a concern with CDBG funding with inadequate requests for proposals for all organizations, builders or nonprofits to be able to apply without them being given directly to organizations that meet the city's agendas. 101 North Main was renovated with 10 office spaces for community use, and those can be used for some of the programs that are going to be outlined today. And I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Moving on to item number 3, which is a public hearing. This item reads, it's a presentation of the proposed community development block grant 2021-2022 annual action plan and budget, including the funding recommendations and notice of third-party public comment period, which is June 7th through July 7th, 2021.
Good evening. My name is Brittany Chopin. I'm the grant manager with City of Temple Housing and Community Development Department. And I'm accompanied by Nancy Glover, Director of Housing and Community Development Department. And we're here to present the 2021-2022 Annual Action Plan. To give you all an overview, in 1974, Congress created the Housing and Community Development Act. Title I of this act authorizes the creation of Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and must serve predominantly low to moderate income households, and the areas served must be at minimum 51% LMI. The city receives CDBG funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD, on an annual basis. So as a recipient, we're required to produce a consolidated plan, which outlines goals and activities undertaken for a period of 5 years. And this includes a citizen participation plan and a fair housing plan. And in addition, each year we create the annual action plan that defines the programs to be implemented in the coming year. Activities must meet one or more of the 3 national objectives, which are benefiting low to moderate income persons. Those are incomes that are below 80% of the Korean area median income, preventing, reducing, or eliminating slum and blight, or meeting an urgent community development need. For the annual action plan, will reflect our city's funding priorities and identify projects proposed to receive funds under CDBG program on an annual basis. So in 2020, the city of Temple received $626,646 in funding. In 2021, the city of Temple will receive $606,562 in CDBG funding, and this reflects a decrease of negative 3.2%. In 2020, for our proposed projects for 2021, we're proposing housing improvements, demolition, neighborhood revitalization, public facility, crime prevention, and CDBG administration. We would like to continue our housing reinvestment program, which provides home repairs to low to moderate income citizens in Temple. And for this program, we will dedicate $210,790. For our demolition program, will help eliminate slum and blight through the removal of deteriorating structures throughout Temple. And for this program, we will fund $50,000. For code compliance, we'll focus on proactive measures to engage citizens to reduce code violations, including inspection of multiple types of properties. And for this program, we will fund $121,852. For a public facility, the East Temple Community Enrichment Center will include 2,800 square feet of classroom and computer lab space. Will be located directly in an underserved area. So programming will include job training, GED assistance, and work readiness, resume building, and more. These programs will be made available to LMI individuals and those impacted by COVID-19 related job loss. And for this program, $27,519 will go towards public facility. Public services, our crime prevention program will continue to provide a dedicated and consistent law enforcement presence to work within low to moderate income areas with objectives and benchmarks to engage the community for the purpose of eliminating and reducing crime. And for the $75,889 will fund the crime prevention program. Administration will be used for personnel, operating, and training costs associated with managing the CDBG program, and $121,312 will be dedicated to administration. Our plan adoption schedule, we're currently in the public comment period, which ends on July 7th. We had 2 public meetings on June 14th. Right now, we're having the first public hearing, and the second public hearing will be on July 15th. On August 15th, adopted plan will be submitted to HUD, and October 1st, the CDBG plan year will begin. Any questions?
Council? Don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Pat Patterson, 3114 or 3144 Southfield. I want to state that I've reviewed all these applications that they've applied for, and specifically the rehab money. I don't know, I'm sure you've been briefed on it, but you have taken and replaced numerous roofs this past year. And over the last 10 to 15 years, very, very few roofs have been done by this program. But this last year, you got a committee together. They met and individuals came together and volunteered their time. They coordinated with the homeowners needing the roofs, and those roofs were put on this past year. And so that was using monies like this. For the demo, I know that your code enforcement folks locate houses that are falling down that attract vagrants and cause problems for the neighborhood, drug dealers, and all kinds of bad things happen in vacant houses. So I truly support those houses being taken down and gotten rid of so that we could clean it up and make that lot available for people to build on and build new houses. So I totally support what's been proposed by the folks in your department.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Sanjanet Crossley. I live at 5102 Sturbridge Drive, Temple, Texas. I just got up to say I'm also quite excited about the things you're doing with these allocated funds and the history that you have that has gotten better over the last few years and the impact that it's had. As been said by Mr. Patterson, it has been quite effective in helping persons that have been in great need for a long time with roofs. We were an intricate part of that. I'm the president of Citizens for Progress and actually did some of the legwork in going out and helping with the application procedures, helping people overcome barriers. Oftentimes they're reluctant and sometimes uncomfortable in fulfilling processes to fill out applications to get allocated funds that would benefit them. And we happen to be a bridge in the past to do that. We've been a spokesman for over 20 years to see that people that are not comfortable in these settings approaching you or even asking for funds that have been identified that would benefit them, that they're sometimes very uncomfortable with the process. And so we've been instrumental in that process. And we appreciate the city's vision. We appreciate the city's determination to remove the barriers that have been and to hear input. Over the years, we've been at the table where we had inputs. We thank goodness for those opportunities to be in some of the master planning, some of the visionary efforts that you've had. And we see the impact. Sometimes it's not as fast as we desire or people desire, but it's happening. And we're pulling off layers to meet need and addressing those needs. So I'm excited about how you're allocating monies. I've served on building and standards for about 4 years, maybe. In the past, I was able to graduate off that group this year. But I saw the impact when people had to have properties that had suffered harm, fires, aging, neglect, and they didn't have the monies, but they knew that it was an eyesore or it was going to be detrimental to our society. They needed a little help. And by you allocating those demolition funds and they're knowing that they qualify because they were not the most affluent people in our community, it blessed many of persons while I served to see them say, oh, really, you can help me to address this need so that that lot can be repurposed, reused, not just left empty, but repurposed. So I'm just here to say we appreciate your conscientious efforts and the monies that have been sought after and that are going to be beneficial to the city of Temple, all aspects of whoever qualifies for it. So I just wanted to get up and say thank you very much for your efforts. And we know it will help us even with in reference to putting the police where they need to be. Through, some of the money is allocated for that, and definitely codes. All of it is benefiting us as citizens as a whole, as a deterrent to some negative things and some encouragement to areas that need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Crossley. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Tanya Gray, Executive Director for Keep Temple Beautiful, 100 West Adams, and we are thrilled and support this initiative by the City of Temple. We've worked with Citizens for Progress and others on initiatives like this, and I think it's a truly amazing project. And as stated, Keep Temple Beautiful and my board, we actually support you guys on this, as always. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Dr. Sue Hamby, and I live at 4110 Cripple Creek. And I just want to speak in support of this 2021-22 plan. I think it's well thought out, and we're just really excited. I don't live on the east side, but I do work with a lot of people that live on the east side, and they're excited not only about the enrichment center, but also the roof program and repair program. And I think it's exciting, and I just want you to know that I appreciate what you've done and that we are in support of this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hamby.
Zoe Grant, 712 South 32nd Street. I am totally in support of the work that we are doing on the east side of Temple. I am part of that program where we rehab programs, homes, working with Citizens for Progress as well as other organizations. However, I am disappointed that the CDBG funding was not offered to other organizations who do like work, and those who have spoken in support of are all part of that same organization, as well as one of the council members. So when you're automatically getting funding to one group versus others have to apply and they're getting less money where I have to go to Killeen and Belton to get money to help people. Why should I go to another city to help people when I live on that east side? So all I'm asking is for fair practices because there was money that was supposed to be given in 2017 and people are having to reapply because we're using new CDBG funding. And so now they may not qualify, but they were never receiving that money that there was allotted for them in 2017. So these are the things that I'm dealing with. I am a champion for the Crestview District. I get to hear all the stories. I bring it back, but if it's not being said publicly, and that's why I want it on record, is that we need to do things fair and in order.
Can anyone from staff address the application process?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So when we choose a subrecipient for our programs, we can choose a partner that has a specific, I guess, mission that aligns with the program that we're looking for a partner organization to help us with. And at the time that we established the partnership with Citizens for Progress, there was really no other organization that had the longevity in town that they had. They've been doing projects like this for the last 20 years. They had also had, a really great track record for completion of projects. So they really checked all the boxes that we needed to check to establish that strategic partnership and subrecipient agreement. And so by HUD standards, that's not something that has to be sent out for RFP or, request for proposal or quotes or anything like that. We can make those choices based on the project and the organizations that are available at the time.
Is the application process for new application for subrecipients publicized, made available? And is it always at the city's discretion and that department's discretion then to award those funds or simply not award those funds to various subrecipient applicants?
So we have had some discussions after the public meetings on the 12th of June, the 14th of June. And we have decided that based on that feedback that we got, we are going to allocate some funding for public service agencies to apply for, and are still working out that process, the process for that, but that would be an open application type of situation that will be available.
Okay.
And Nancy, I would add to, we also have our community enhancement grants that are funded through the general fund where we have an open application process as well for targeted activities.
How is that advertised?
Through our normal media outlets, our marketing department helps us advertise those things.
So newspaper, it's on the website, etc.
Yeah, I believe they do press releases, and if the newspaper picks up the story, then it's in the newspaper. We don't buy advertising for it. We just, sort of work with the media to get the word out as far and wide as we can with our marketing department.
Is the application process for the 2022 fiscal year closed now?
No, sir. And that would be based on the feedback that we got from the public meeting. We're going to have some funding available for applications.
Is there a deadline?
Not yet. I haven't really come up with the application process at this point. But as soon as we work that out, I'll let you guys know. For sure.
Very good. Thank you.
Nancy and I we totally put Nancy on the spot just now. So I'll
Sure
say that she and I just recently met about the feedback she received at the public hearing. So she has not had a lot of time to figure out the direction to implement the guidance that we need to have some additional funding set aside for other partners. Because there are we're blessed. We really are blessed to have a lot of community organizations that are doing good work that can help us further the work that we're doing in our neighborhood revitalization and our housing reinvestment program. So she's a little bit on the spot right now because she hasn't had a chance to develop that, but she and her team will absolutely work through that and develop it. Typically for the community enhancement grants, that would be something that would be opened after you approve the budget. So you would set aside the funding for that, and then Nancy would open the application process. And I would imagine that the CDBG portion of that would follow a similar path.
Very good. As long, and we did totally put you on the spot, that's okay. You handle it well.
I do my
And
best
as
work.
long as because so many of these agencies, people that get involved in their community, they can stretch that dollar so far. And so it's obviously in the city's best interest to partner as well as we can. And as long as the process isn't closed, right?
Right.
As long as the ball hasn't been totally dropped for this year, then I think we're okay. We'll just set up the system. Whenever it gets set up, we'll move forward.
Sounds great.
That good?
That sounds good.
Thank you, Ms. Glover. Anybody else? Yeah.
My name is Dr. Sue Hamby, and I live at 4110 Cripple Creek. And as many of you know, I wear many different hats. So I did have on a Citizens of Progress hat. Now I'm wearing a St. Vincent's de Paul hat. And we were a recipient of a community enhancement grant. It was advertised, it was open, we applied. And so I just want you to know that other organizations did have an opportunity through the community enhancement grant.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else from the audience? Council, any input? Very good. Then at this time, I'll close this public hearing. We'll now move on to item number, I've lost my place here. Item number 4. We'll actually, I'll read in both items number 4 and number 5 together. Item number 4 reads, the first and final reading in a public hearing to consider the action with respect to an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $54,930,000 City of Temple, Texas combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation, Series 2021, authorizing the levy of an ad valorem tax and the pledge of certain revenues in support of the certificates, according to an official statement and a paying agent registrar agreement, awarding the sale of the certificates and authorizing other matters related to the issuance of those certificates. And item number 5 is a first and final reading in a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing the issuance of City of Temple, Texas limited tax notes in one or more series, approving official statements and agreements relating to the sale and issuance of those notes and the form of paying the agent registrar agreement, establishing the procedures for selling the delivery of one or more series of the notes, and authorizing other matters relating to those notes. Ms. Bernard.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So a lot to say there, but just to summarize the FY 2021 and through 2028 business plan, the city continues to implement the largest capital improvement program in the history of the community. And the financing plan recommends significant funding to invest in our infrastructure and systems, plan for, design, construct, and maintain high-quality facilities, and expand our drainage improvement needs. And these bonds support that initiative. Our financing plan for these bonds is a phased approach and capital projects, design and right-of-way acquisitions funded first, construction funded in the following package. Goals of the phased approach allows us to minimize and stabilize the tax rate impact, maximizes opportunity for the tax-based growth, allows ability to balance debt amortization, and aligns funding with project readiness. And as you just read, Mayor, just to summarize and where I want to focus on is the award of the sale of the bonds. This morning, bids were due at 10:30 a.m. and our financial advisor, they managed that bid process. And then later he will recommend the low bidder of those bonds. But The 2021 capital improvement program, this issue includes CIP equipment, unlimited tax notes, project funds for $3,150,000. The payback source for those notes is general fund revenues. The other project funds include the CIP mobility projects for $32,590,000. The payback source for those is the INS tax pledge. And the tax rate that, as Ms. Myers went over earlier this afternoon in our budget presentation, that 34.25 tax rate supports the issuance of these bonds. No increase, but just that rate will support these bonds. To include also the facility bonds of $15.9 million. That is an INS tax pledge. Depending on what the project is, those term of those bonds can be from 15 to 20 years. And then we also have public safety component in this bond issue of $2,020,000, and that is a INS tax pledge in 20 years. And then we have some drainage COs of 4.3, almost 4.4 million, and those are supported by drainage fee revenues. Just a quick list of the limited tax notes, the 7-year notes. It was to purchase several garbage trucks, public safety mobile data laptops, and then some street equipment. The mobility component of the COs that totaled 32.5 million, won't read down the list, but includes construction funds for Hartrick Bluff Road reconstruction, the Outer Loop West Phase 1, North Pea Ridge Road, Canyon Creek Blackland Extension, North Pea Ridge Road Phase 2, and South Pea Ridge Road. And then you can see down the list. Facility improvements includes the construction of a new solid waste and recycling facility, and that also includes the equipment to equip the recycling facility. It also includes expansion and site rehab of the service center, and then improvements to the city hall. And then major HVAC replacements in several facilities, roof replacements, and contingency funds. Public safety improvements component that's a little over $2 million includes the design of the public safety training campus, and then design for an expansion of the animal shelter. And then the drainage improvements are all related to the mobility projects, and includes funding for $4.3 million for the Hartrick Bluff Road drainage component, South Pea Ridge, North Pea Ridge, and Canyon Creek Blackland Extension. And tonight with us is Dan Wigmiller. He is our financial advisor with Specialized Public Finance, Inc. He will go over the details of the bids and recommend award. And then joining us by Zoom tonight is Carol Palumbo with McCall, Parkhurst, and Horton. Mr. Wegmiller.
Thank you. Mayor, Council, Dan Wegmiller with Specialized Public Finance. As we go through each and every debt issuance that you go through time to time, part of this process is getting a bond rating from Standard & Poor's reassigned, reaffirmed. This process, as I state every time, is great feedback for you all, but the real purpose of this report is for the investors who are making decisions whether or not they want to buy, for the bidders trying to decide if they want to submit bids. And so I want to read you just a few of the segments that your AA rating has been affirmed. That's just 2 notches from the highest rating possible of AAA. And in their report, so this is what investors, and every time your sale goes out to the market, we start getting emails. Do you have the credit report available? Because they just want to read and see what the assessment is. So from Standard & Poor's, it says credit overview. We believe Temple's strong financial management practices and policies, as well as a diverse tax base, which benefits from nearby Fort Hood as a stabilizing institution, supports the city's very strong financial position and stable performance. We expect it will remain manageable given the projected tax value growth and favorable debt amortization as it references the debt levels. The rating reflects very strong management with strong financial policies and practices, strong budgetary performance, very strong budgetary flexibility, very strong liquidity, and strong institutional framework score. So investors making a decision whether they want to buy the bonds, they've based it on the report that it's been presented. So you can tell it's been a very positive, strong report. What's important also to note is after the winter storm, also the pandemic, credit ratings have not just come through sailing with strong and very strong verbiage. It is, I was on a call today where a credit was affirmed but has a negative outlook in the electric sector, just because of concerns with what exposures might have been out there. It also flows through to the general fund and the tax side, people recognize. So when they look at this, they look at you holistically and see you all are in very good shape. So with that, we were excited this morning to get the bids in. I know you have at your place a short, a couple pages that outline the bids. The real key for what took place was on the COs, which was funding the certificate of obligation list of projects of about 54 million. We received 14 bids on that, which is, I think, one of the highest numbers I've seen over the last probably year and a half of bidders stepping out. It's been a very strong bond market, but 14 bids is beyond exceptional. Within those bids, the winner was FHN Financial Capital Markets. They bid at 1.894883%. Just in comparison, the second place bid from Robert W. Baird was at 1.899854%. So we took it out to the third decimal place to find the winner at 5 basis points. The bids ranged up to 2.10%. So we had very aggressive bids on the low end. Again, people know this credit, they know the city of Temple, and they're very excited to get those bonds in their hands into their investments. So congratulations on the CO bids. On the limited tax note bid, shorter term, 7-year versus the 20-year term on the COs. That one, we received 6 bids. Those 6 bids, the winning bid was BOK Financial Securities out of Dallas and Oklahoma. They bid a 0.691319%. The cover bid from PNC Capital was 0.753648%. So it's not grant money, but it's very close to zero, which is just hard to believe sometimes when we do this stuff. But you all, as Tracy mentioned, your largest capital plan going out, and you've hit the market at some of the lowest levels. So I'll be glad to answer any questions, but those are the summary of the bids, and we recommend both BOK on the notes and FHN on the COs.
Council, any questions?
I assume it's too late to not go borrow more, right?
I still say borrow when you need it, and because these rates, it's hard to believe where we've come from and how low they've been, but people are looking very closely at what they need.
It's a good time to have a very large capital improvement program.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also a good time to have had Tracy and her staff.
Absolutely.
Mr. Bregmiller, are you beginning to see from municipalities this number of bidders, or is this number particularly high even for municipalities?
For the last many I recall that I've worked on, it's been somewhere typically between 7 to 9, 10 on the high side. I think it's just a sign, one, again, of the credit, the economy, and the confidence of where things are. And the Central Texas economy is just on a whole, the credit agencies see it. The credit call I was on earlier today was an analyst for Standard & Poor's based out of San Francisco. And so they see a totally different climate of what's going on. And so it's very helpful. And your management and staff is key. We get on these conference calls, we talk through, we answer the questions, and it's the confidence. The one I talked about today that was affirmed in the electric sector was based on management. Their confidence that, yes, there were some hiccups due to everything that happened through the winter storm, but management carries the day in a lot of places as it does here.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Then at this time, I'll open the public hearing for both item numbers 4 and 5. If you'd like to speak, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record, or please raise your hand on the virtual platform.
Alan Lytle, 504 Paseo del Plata here in Temple. Mayor and council, I want to thank you for bids that you're paying for all the sanitation trucks and all the improvements to the sanitation. I know you've heard me speak several times before about the hard work those boys do, and I'm glad to see we're really going to help fund them. And also, thank you for the training center for our public safety. It's definitely something we need, and we can't wait for it to get built. I do have one question. It's just a curiosity question. What does the asterisk mean?
On the
On the
agenda.
numbers, yeah.
Yes, that is an estimate of the not to exceed amount.
Oh,
The
okay.
actual par amount of the bond is, and it's much less because it was issued at a
Right.
premium.
Okay.
So it's just an estimate at the time the agenda is posted.
I just kept looking for the comment at the bottom, that's usually what the asterisk means.
And
Thank
that-
you. Thank you.
Did we leave off the comment, the explanation of the asterisk? Sorry. The actual number is 50,280,000 is the par.
Very good. Anyone else? Nothing? Okay. At this time, I'll close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion on item number 4.
Take both of these together since you read them out together, or you do
No, we're
separate
gonna vote on
votes?
separate. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd be more than glad to move we adopt the ordinance authorizing the issuance of the accommodation tax and revenue series of obligations that's outlined and discussed.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Judy Morales. Council, if you would, please cast your vote. Item number 4 passes 5 votes to 0. We'll now entertain a motion on item number 5.
Mayor, I'll make a motion on item 5 and to consider adopting the ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Temple, Texas Limited tax notes in one or more series as presented by Ms. Bernard and Mr. Wigmiller. Seconded.
I have a motion by Councilmember Long. We have a second by Councilmember Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item number 5 passes 5 votes to 0. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed under this consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and may be enacted by one motion. If discussion is desired by the council, any item may be removed from this consent agenda at the request of any council member and will be considered separately. Council, during workshop, we discussed the consent agenda. It's my understanding that no one wishes to pull anything. Has that changed? No? All right. Then at this time, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda, which is items 6A through 6O.
Second that motion.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Judy Morales to approve items 6A through 6O. We have a second.
Yeah, yes,
I'm
I'm
didn't
sorry.
hear you.
I made a second.
Very good. We have a motion. We have a second. Council, if you would, please cast your vote. Item number 6 passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to item number 7. It's on the regular agenda. It's a resolution to consider adopting a resolution approving the final plat of Friars Creek Phase 3, a 23.772 plus or minus acre, 132 lot, 4 block residential subdivision, being a replat of Lot 2, Block 4, Commerce Park, First Extension, and adjacent land situated in the Maximo Marino Survey, abstract number 14, located in Bell County, Texas, and addressed as 3002 South 13th Street, with an exception to UDC 8.2.1.d for projection of streets. Mr. Chandler.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So just to orient you to where that exactly is located, this is Phase 3 of the reserves at Friars Creek. And so just to the east of Phases 1 and 2 along 13th Street, which was extended as part of the construction for Phases 1 and 2, partially enabling this project, and also backs up to Friars Creek. And as was mentioned, the item description, this is 132 lot, 4 block subdivision. It does front onto South 13th Street, which due to the extension and the new comp plan was classified as a community collector. Also, I think of note that this plat would establish a trail, or at least a trail easement, for future extension of the Friars Creek Trail. I guess the Phase 1, if Phase 2 is north of the loop, then this is kind of the original Friars Creek Trail. So that's will be a good amenity in the future. And of course, City Council is the final authority due to the exception 8.2.1, which is related to street projections. And the code requires a street projection every 1,000 feet or connecting to other adjacent streets. Due to the fact that the Friars Creek Trail backs up to it, the extension of Azalea, which will cross the Friars Creek Trail immediately to the south, and that bridge, I believe, has actually just been recently approved, so that is going to happen. And so that is a natural barrier. And then, and I'll show you a map in a second, but there are challenges for projections to the north and to the south. And so staff does support the exception. Here's the plat, the 132 lots. These are single family attached lots, essentially just like what has been done in Phases 1 and 2. And so this is the edge, this is 13th Street looking, the new section looking towards the loop. So it would be an expansion of these single family attached homes. But what you see on the right, of course, with the entrance onto 13th, this would essentially be a fenced area in the back of the lots. And so, of course, this is Friars Creek Trail, what it looks like, or Friars Creek, what it looks like near the property. And so Planning and Zoning Commission recommended on June 7th, approval 6-0. And staff recommends approval as well, just for the reasons previously mentioned, the natural barrier with Friars Creek. And then to the north, challenges to be able to create a linkage, an additional linkage to the loop. And to the south actually is a proposed multifamily development, which will have its access on Azalea. So this will have access on Friars, on 13th, with a widened entrance per fire code, and the future multifamily to the south would have all of its access to locations on Azalea. Thus, staff supports. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor? Council?
I have a question.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
to be clear, you're saying in the picture you had, there's no access onto the loop.
That is correct. So the entire access for this subdivision will be on 13th Street. And you can see along Wrigley Lane. You can see how it widens at 13th.
Right.
And so that would allow for additional emergency vehicle access. And that meets our entrance, subdivision entrance standards.
That means 132 homes emptying onto 13th, theoretically
Yes, ma'am.
taking Azalea over to 31st or 13th down to the loop.
Yes, and so that was another reason staff supported, and I say staff, not just planning staff, but our entire development review committee, including public works, including fire, due to the improved access in this area, 13th Street, Azalea, which is, in that last phase to be able to
Yes.
connect to 5th Street. You also have Lowe's Drive, which is another community collector, and
You're right.
being able to get over to 31st Street or 5th Street, and now up to the loop and down to extended Azalea.
Do we anticipate the opening of Azalea onto 5th coinciding with some of the opening of these streets?
I don't know about the timing. I know Mr. Patterson, Patco Construction is the developer for this project. I don't know if Mr. Patterson or Richard Wilson. There you go.
Well,
City
I know
engineer, Rich.
Pat wants the opening as fast as
Yes,
possible.
absolutely.
If you ask Pat, it's going to be in September of this year, but it's more likely going to be,
Yes, but he said that to me 4 years ago.
we're in final review of the final design for that, so it should go to construction this summer. And we estimate 9 to 12 months. 6 to 9 months. Yes, depends on your contract.
Say that again, Pat. Okay, so in other words, there's going to be some connection of Azalea to 5th by the time some of these houses are opening. Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Chandler, would you go back a couple of slides, please? To the one that shows 13th looking north toward Lowe's?
The photo.
Yes. So is that going to come out? That is not through the Lowe's parking lot. That is not, that
This
comes
is
out by that
13.
convenience store, correct?
Right, yes, sir. So you see in the background, the convenience store at the loop. So this is looking north. And there is a little office warehouse there, the red building. And then you can see the yellow arrow is the approximate location of that photo. And so the entrance to the neighborhood would be just to the north of this.
But this is connecting to the loop.
To the loop, yes, so
the-
13.
Whatever you call the side part of the loop.
Right, the frontage road, yes.
Yeah,
So
thank you, frontage road.
right. And of course, 13th dead ended just south of the loop, really where that red building is.
Right.
Prior to the extension by the developer as part of phases 1 and phase 2, which provides significant access.
Very significant.
Council, anything else? Virtual platform? It's in the public. Okay, all right, very good. Then if there are no further questions for Mr. Chandler, council, I will entertain a motion on item number 7.
Mayor, I'm very pleased to make a motion to approve item 7 as has been presented by Mr. Chandler and Mr. Patterson.
I'm sorry, I was going to do the same thing. I think I beat you.
It's yours. A second.
Three of us.
Everybody's-
I think it's going to pass.
We're going to give credit to Mr. Williams. Very good. We have a motion by Councilmember Long. We have a second by Councilmember Williams. Council, if you would, please cast your vote on this item. Item number 7 passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on now to item number 8 is consider adopting a resolution authorizing a construction contract with TTG Utilities of Gatesville for the construction of Kegley Road Improvements Phase 2 in the amount of $6,212,974. Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You'll recall we talked briefly about this in your work session, so I won't run through the entire presentation. But just a couple of quick reminders as you look at the map depiction on the screen there that demonstrates the scope of the project going from just south of Adams down to Blue Star that does pass both entrances to Wildflower. Bids were received on June the 10th. We had four bidders. Staff is recommending, along with our consulting engineer, KPA, the base bid with the addition of alternative number 3 at 6.2 million. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Council, any questions for Mr. Olson? Comments? All right. There being none, thank you, Mr. Olson. If there's no further discussion, then I'll entertain a motion on item number 8.
Here, I'll make a motion to approve item number 8 as presented by Mr. Olson. And again, thank you for the presentation in workshop. I second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Long. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Judy Morales. Council, if you would please cast your vote. Item number 8 passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to item number 9 is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing a developer participation agreement with Keela Development of Temple in the amount not to exceed $4,345,000 to realign and upgrade a portion of North Pea Ridge Road from Prairie View Road to Happy Valley Drive at the city's request and to participate in the cost of the water and wastewater improvements. Mr. Wilson.
Good evening. So this is North Pea Ridge Phase 2. It was awarded in September of 2019. It's for the realignment and extension of North Pea Ridge Road from Prairie View Road to Airport. And you can see on the bottom end, the red section, there's a realignment to align with North Pea Ridge Phase 1. And at the north end, there's a realignment to coincide with an entrance to the airport that's not shown in this old area. The reason there are 2 colors, the red portion is the portion that is under consideration. It has all the right-of-way available. All of it was platted and donated by the developers. The section that's clear still has right-of-way acquisitions that are required. So as you can see, there are a couple thousand lots under development in this area now. So Mr. Keela came to us and we had a conversation about accelerating this part of the construction. He has crews that are mobilized, so they can get on this pretty quick. So we agreed that it was a good idea to do this. So the phase 2 OPC was 5.4 million. 2A is a section in red that we're looking to fund. 2B is a remainder that's funded to complete the rest of the project. And staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Council, any discussions on this item?
The project.
Very good. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion on item number 9.
Make a motion to approve item 9.
Second that motion.
A motion by Councilmember Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Long. Council, if you would, please cast your vote. Item number 9 passes 5 votes to 0. Again, my apologies for starting a little late. Thank you for your attendance, and this meeting is adjourned.